Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. I'm Dan Fsef, the District Manager for Paradise Recreation Park District. Um, just appreciate you guys' time on this effort here. I thought I'd give you a little background and then give you a chance to sort of introduce the team, get to know the team here that's working on it, on this project with us, and then hear from you guys. So, our district's been around since 1948, encompasses a larger area than I think a lot of people think when they think Paradise Recreation Park District. But we serve Paradise, Magalia, Butte Creek Canyon, Concow, part of Yankee Hill. So a lot of surrounding areas. So we worked really hard on rebuilding, but also building new things out here. And I think this is a really interesting project that we're perhaps, I'd say boldly going forward, but maybe stumbling into because there's a lot of challenges with it. Tonight we're here to talk about this effort with our planning effort on this, just focusing on responsible off-highway vehicle use in our area. Let me tell you a little bit about what started this. So not too long ago, we got a donation of property up on Jordan Hill Road and Koodalink. And although the acreage varies, it's at kind of that top area there, staging area. It's been used as an informal staging area for decades. We were very happy to receive a large grant, $219,000 grant from the state of California, their off-highway vehicle program. And the project is basically this. It's to look at a feasibility study. So explore what options there could be off that site, what the challenges might be, and then issues, things that we want to address, landowner concerns, a whole host of issues that could be up there. So the goal of this is really to transform what was once a unmanaged, well-used area into something that's managed, sustainable, and then meets community needs and protects resources. In March 2024, we issued a request for proposals, and that to provide services looking at the feasibility study. And as a result of that selection process, we selected ICF. That's a team that's here tonight that's going to do most of the chatting and listening. And we have a really robust team to work on this that have a lot of good experience and then local connections too, which I think is very important on this project. So, just to go through some of the issues here that the planning project's going to cover is inventory roads, trails, and other natural resources in the area, work with agencies and landowners along potential areas to identify anything that's appropriate, could be appropriate OHV use, or alternatively, places that should be protected and minimized. Develop strategies to minimize trespass on private land and environmental impacts. Create a conceptual plan for future improvements, including trailheads and signage. That's really important for any sort of future looking at grants and sort of build a track record. Everybody that provides funding from the state wants to make sure that we've had good consideration of the issues in our area. Why this matters. So many residents in our area enjoy OHV use, but there aren't a whole lot of local sanctioned opportunities. People have to drive to other places or have questionable access on lands that are quasi-public. So providing this forum here provides an outlet to reduce conflicts, protect sensitive lands, improve the experience for all visitors. It'll help, if implemented, help us address wildfire risks and then some of any issues that rise here. Good part about how this is developed is we are geared up for handling public input and ideas and knowledge. So I think a lot of what we're doing right now is kind of kicking off that conversation to hear from you guys. And I think just a few notes here, get the wheels turning, but what kind of features or amenities would make this project successful? Where would you want to go if you're a OHV user? And then how do we balance kind of that OHV use with some of the environmental concerns, some of the private property concerns, and other recreation? To also include, wildfire risk and other issues as well. I think this is an important one, but what partnerships and then other resources we should be aware of. we have a small sliver of property here, but there's a whole network of roads that go deep into Concal Basin and beyond. And so how do we follow through with that in a logical, partner-oriented way? So tonight, you share those thoughts in our discussion. We have comment cards. You have different ways to contact our organization, or Holly's going to share how to do that. And then keep an eye out for any of our upcoming processes that we'll have. This project we just have until November 26th. So we have a fair amount of time to do this. It seems like with the team and the progress we made and your help, we can get there and have a durable, good report and some findings that we can move forward with. So I'd just like to introduce Holly Jorgensen, who can introduce herself and her team. Here.
It's not me, it's the. It is. Go back. There you go. Project team. Good. Oh, see. I'll go ahead and start. Oh, there we go. All right. Great, thanks. So good evening. Yes, I'm Holly Jorgensen. I am the project manager and I'm a planner with ICF. I'm in the Environment and Planning Division of ICF, and ICF is a consulting firm with expertise in environmental planning, design, and natural resource management, and has a proven track record on OHV and trail planning projects. Before I joined ICF, and I see a few familiar faces out there, I was with the Sacramento River Watershed Program, and I was really lucky to work with PRPD and Dan on the Wildfire Buffer Project. I do live in Chico, and I grew up in the Feather River Watershed, so I'm very familiar with the area and also grateful to work on a project that is right here in my own backyard. Also grateful to work with such a great team, and like I said, also working with Dan here. And also this project wouldn't be possible without the hard work and support of our colleagues at ICF that include GIS and permitting specialists and our fiscal team. So Dan went ahead and shared a little bit about the background and the vision of this project. And I think that we can skip ahead. He talked a little bit about the background of the feasibility study, and we'll skip through a couple of the maps here. And I'll go ahead and just talk about the project itself and what we've done to date. So the summary of the project progress so far, last fall, so around October of 2024, we held a kickoff meeting here at PRPD with Dan and a couple of his staff. And really the goal for that was to review the scope of work and to clarify our expectations around this project. We also conducted a site visit. So we visited the proposed area at the intersection of Koodalink and Jordan Hill Road. That is the proposed property for the OHV Park. And then we also drove down Jordan Hill Road to the bridge where Jordan Hill crosses the Feather River, and stopped along the way to speak with Dan and to look at the existing site conditions and identify opportunities and constraints for OHV trail planning. And then we basically spent the next few months collecting, reviewing, and analyzing publicly available reports and articles, some GIS data, and then also some planning documents just to gain a better understanding of the existing conditions. And also we compiled all of that data and then we put it into a database of all the collected information. Also with that, we developed an outreach and engagement strategy. Oh, there. I don't think I was speaking to the mic quite there. So we developed an outreach and engagement strategy that includes community workshops, both this one, and then we'll have a follow-up workshop probably in February of next year. Part of that engagement and outreach strategy was also to meet with key landowners and potential partner agency, including landowners along Jordan Hill Road. and also the connecting communities of Concow and Magalia. So we used all of that information and data that we collected from multiple sources, including the interviewees, to prepare maps of the existing routes in the study area. We documented kind of the general conditions, ownership, easements, barriers, things like that. And then also tried to get a better idea of the types of OHV use that were occurring on the on Jordan Hill Road and on the connecting roads. Um, so I'm going to turn it over to Dick now so that he can explain our findings and also talk about the key considerations that we're looking at as we develop like the design criteria and also our recommendations.
See if we can make this work for tall people. Is the mic getting me? All right. I'll talk loud. All right. So this is a feasibility study. And so primarily what we're trying to do is determine what would make this project feasible or not feasible. And that information generally falls into kind of 6 big categories. The first, of course, is existing trails. It's difficult to establish new roads and routes out there. And so having a good understanding of what are all the existing routes, how do people use them, what are the potential networks of opportunities that people can have out there is important. We have a lot of that information collected already and interested in more from you. The second big category is destinations. Where do people want to go? Where are people trying to get to? What kinds of experiences are you trying to have? And again, we have some good information on that, but I'm sure that we will get more good information from this group tonight on where people want to go and what you want to do out there. The third is ownership. Clearly, anything that's going to be proposed or done has to reflect landowner permissions and desires and things. As was noted, we've talked with most, if not all, of the key landowners out there and have a good sense of what that means. And you'll see on the map materials that we'll be using in the second half of the night here, that we have areas that we know already. We've gotten feedback on places where landowners are okay with riding happening, other places where they're not. And so you'll be able to see on maps how that is playing out. Maintenance is a big issue. Clearly, any kind of facility needs regular maintenance. We know there are plenty of needs out there of various sorts for maintenance and repair. And again, looking to get some more feedback from people to make sure that we know, what our complete set of what the issues and needs are on the places that you go riding in this area. And next category is resources. Clearly, staying on the right side of environmental policies and laws and things we need to do. But it's also responding to resources in a healthy way is good for users too, right? It's gorgeous out there. And that's part of the reason people like to be here and like to go out and ride in these areas. So we want to be good stewards and just make sure that we are managing biology, water quality, scenic resources, all of those things in a way that really works. And the last category is public feedback. Feasibility of a project is dependent upon how people feel about that project. How much support does it have? What needs to be done in order for people to find value in what's being proposed and to support it or not. And so tonight is a big part of that function. So with that, we will turn the corner and transition into the fun part of the evening. We want to hear from you, all of you, about your use of OHVs in the areas, what opportunities or limitations you see out there on the trailhead site itself and the broader area with trails that you can access from the Jordan Hill trailhead site. So we're going to have you work in groups at tables. We'll give you, I think, 20 minutes. Is that right? Give people about 20 minutes to group up at tables and talk through some things. I'll walk you through, before we start, walk you through the questions we'd like you to address and just kind of outline the information that you'll be given to work with. So, next. What's it? Okay.
Before we broke up into groups here, I had just a couple conversations came up earlier about other trails efforts that we're doing. So we are working on a permit from the Forest Service on a loop trail from Magalia on up to Paradise Lake. And that's been challenging with the status of the federal government. We hope to get that in place and start construction next year, 2026. We also have online a couple things I think might be interesting for folks. Along the Yellowstone Kelly Trail, we had a plan with American Ramp Company that looked at basically play features that could be incorporated into the trail that's up there now. So kind of envision the regular trail would be in place and then some side features that might be a little bit more challenging or get the adrenaline going for those that are skilled. So that's an interesting plan for folks to look at. And then I think importantly for us was an effort we did with the National Park Service. We were very fortunate to get some funding, and they helped kind of compile some ideas we got from public outreach on a conceptual regional trails plan. So how do we link some of the efforts that are going on within our district with all the other things that are going on in our area? And it's pretty interesting to look at. And it's going to evolve over time. That's the idea behind it, is we'd update it every 5 to 10 years to see how our success might be on then linking it with other areas up and down and to the sides here. So, it's really, I think, a very interesting long-term vision that had good public input on it. So look at our website or ask us questions about that. And we can direct you to it. So
Yes, for this project, yes. So that I'll walk you through sort of. I guess I'll talk on that briefly, and then part of the answer to that is also just walking you through kind of what we're going to have you do in the breakout groups. So yeah, so yeah, that context. There's this parcel of land you're seeing. It's 2 point something acres at the intersection of Jordan Hill Road and Koodalink. Yes, thank you. Koodalink Road. And it was donated to the district. And Dan's question is recognizing that Jordan Hill Road gets you into the backcountry. There's a network of experiences out there. People like to ride OHVs out in that area. Dan's question is essentially like, should we develop that 2 point something acre parcel into a trailhead that serves those functions? And so our study is looking kind of at two scales. One second. Two scales. One is that parcel itself. What should be happening there? What are the needs, logistical or experiential needs that people would want out of that site? And that's our kind of primary focus, but you kind of can't really ask that question without looking at the broader region, right? So we're looking at that broader trail network and what's out there. How would people use it? How does that then come back and inform what happens at the trailhead site? Go ahead.
Parcel that you've been donated is a parking lot, basically, and then
Yeah.
there or.
Yeah, I think part of that is what we want to hear tonight. So it's a very exceedingly small area, right? So it would be, we had at Billy Park, we had little Barbie Jeeps that went around that loop, and that was totally fine for the kids, right? That size park was fine for that. But the idea on this is that historically, this was a very active site where people would bring in trailers, and you'd have a dozen trailers sometimes in their vehicles pre-fire. where people would park, offload, and then go on a day's adventure deep into Feather River Canyon and then come on back. So the idea is that do we want, is that adequate for there? Is that what the public wants? Or are there some concerns related to that? Because by itself, this 2 point whatever acres is not enough for that other than potentially as a trailhead. And then I think importantly, and I think this is something to get out there too, is the watershed that has our drinking water source. We want to keep that protected from erosion and gasoline, anything else out there. But we'd ideally love to have a direction where people could go that was sanctioned that would be okay. So maybe it's no motorized going to your left if you're facing up Coon Link Road where the watersheds are, drinking watersheds are. And then to the right, maybe potentially trails, amenities that could be used, you know, for people to go out there. So that's kind of in a nutshell what that idea is, but we want to hear from you guys on ideas and where it goes from there.
Oh, yeah, sure. go ahead. Sure. Yep, that's what's coming next. Yeah. So let me outline, tell you what, let me outline what we're going to ask you to do. And then at that point, you know, if you got more questions about what that means, what we're looking for, we'll do that. Then we'll break into groups and do it. Okay, so where's my first map? There you go. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to have you break out into groups at tables. You'll have about 20 minutes to use the materials that we give you and some questions that we seed, sort of seed questions for you to talk about. So you're going to have this map, which is a map of the broader study area. And it shows kind of a version of the ownership patterns based on the feedback we've received. There's one color for areas where it looks like landowners are okay with riding happening there, and another color is landowners that aren't. So you'll be able to see that pattern and how that intersects with the other main piece of information that's on there, which is the existing trail network. And some of that, we may still have more to learn about some of that, right? So your thoughts and markups of this map, if there's key things that need to be shown on there, right? We want to know that. So questions that you'll have these list of questions too, but the questions you're going to be asked are essentially, where do you currently ride out there? You know, can you show where you like to go, where you ride? What are the key destinations? Are there any new trail connections or routes that you would like to see? Things that don't exist now, things that you think could solve problems. And then essentially, you know, what are the problems and challenges that you face or might face to go and use this area for OHV riding. So that's one map at that broader scale and the general questions we'll have for you there. Next slide. The other materials you have, looking at the trailhead site, giving you a couple different maps of the trailhead site to sort of spur thought. The first is this map. This map. One back. All right. It'll come up here. It'll be red and green primarily. So this is a map of the trailhead site, and it just has some kind of basic site analysis kinds of information on it. Slope, which areas are flat, which areas are steep. If you're already familiar with the site, this probably isn't telling you anything. If you're not familiar with the site, it'll help you understand how is it configured, you know, how can we use it, how might it be hard to use it. And so you can use it in that way and mark that up with additional observations if you have them. The second map that we're giving you of the trailhead site provides a really basic example, and I want to emphasize basic example because this is by no means like a, you know, our exact proposal for what's going to happen here. We were just trying to provide some markups on this map to show sort of some potential ideas, food for thought on what could you do and maybe in different areas. There's some parking spaces and picnic tables and things on there to help understand scale, like how big is this area really? And so use that as inspiration. And beyond that, we want to know your thoughts. What kinds of things should be happening there? How should they be configured? What kinds of things shouldn't be happening there? Whatever you is on your mind for that site, we want to hear it. So specific questions we want to hear about on this set of maps and for the trailhead site are, have you used this site in the past? Would you use it again in the future if it was made available? I think one of the key questions in my mind, honestly, is if you go riding or driving down Jordan Hill Road, how do you get your OHV to Jordan Hill Road? Do you simply drive it there and then you go? Or is it on a trailer or in your truck? Do you need loading and unloading facilities? Those kinds of logistical things. Like how does this site need to support that kind of logistical activity? And what kinds of activities and functions do you think should be provided on the trailhead site? Is it purely pragmatic, parking, loading? Do you want some sort of limited riding opportunities there? There could be enough space for like a small kids training track loop or something. Picnic tables, rest and relaxation areas before or after riding. Whatever you can imagine. When I go here, I need or want to do this. We want to hear that. So your assignment then is to spend the next 20 minutes addressing those questions, providing as much feedback as you can. You can draw, scribble on the maps, write notes. We'll collect all that stuff when you're done and be looking at it later. And one more important thing is after we're done with that, we'll have each table report out. So pick a speaker, representative for your table who will ultimately share the highlights of your conversation and discussion afterwards. So I'll pause there if there's any remaining questions before you go for it. Yeah, we got materials. We got materials for you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of both, right? Tried to have as rich a dialogue about those kinds of things as we could. Dan, I don't know if you want to get into that more.
Because especially Jordan Hill Road itself, the ownership changes along there, and it's not, it's very fuzzy what the easement is in places and what would be allowable. We need to have that landowner conversation going both ways. I think it's what's available potentially like today. And then what could be a little further out with some work, some agreements, and then kind of future is looking at what is a good long-term vision. And I think that's where the idea of what it could be and how to protect some of those resources. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. That's part of tonight too. So I think where maybe I could chat with you a little bit, but I think right now what might be best is the interactive conversation and making sure we collect it. This is still in that information gathering mode. So the team here up here has talked to some of the landowners, the large landowners. We're talking about like some of the agencies. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and I think that is a huge issue on that road. And I think long-term maintenance on it too, and erosion, all that. But that'd be great to collect your information too.
Yep.
Okay.
So, right, OHVs, and then of course, importantly, there are people that are impacted by people writing OHVs. So, I think that's where we're trying to really get an understanding of what is feasible without, causing issues to people like you that,
And as,
right.
yeah. And as much clarity, and as much clarity as we can get on specifically kind of what the concerns are, right?
Yeah.
Is it dumping, like people are dumping stuff, people are acting a fool, right? They're getting off the roads and impacting your property. They're
The sketchy.
vandalizing, or is it simply like
Right.
I don't want the noise. I don't want people near my, like, as much clarity as we can get, not just I have concerns, but what is the nature of those concerns for people who have them is important.
And if you have ideas, whatever the
Suggested
idea.
solutions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about
We
solutions.
just, big, and we just have got down here that we're doing and not put on for 3 years.
Yes.
The transitions on Jordan Hill.
Yeah, well, I think let's do our small group discussions, and then, like I said, we're going to come back after that. Tables will report out on what their table talked about, and that'll be in a group space, and so it'll give us more fodder for those kinds of discussions, I think, as we come out of that exercise.
And we're also, we're recording this and going to send it out.
Try to use your mic.
Send out the document. We'll send out the document that we're sharing today too. And so if there's other things that you think of or things that you don't necessarily feel like you want to share today, that's great too. Send out an email, or if you want to elaborate on the form and send it to us. Right now, we're really just trying to get a good understanding of, how people feel about it from kind of all perspectives. Yeah, go ahead.
Sounds like a good explanation on the feasibility study. What is, like, you guys haven't started this process. You guys are very deep.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we've collected a lot of information, but I think that we're still trying to figure out some ideas and solutions because there's a lot of differing opinions on that. And for anybody that's done any research on Jordan Hill Road, it's kind of infamous, right? For what it is. And we still raise your hand if you're responsible for Jordan Hill Road. Oh, see, you're the first.
Well, a piece.
Right,
Yeah.
for a piece of it, because that seems to be a question.
So we had the dumping with the semi logging.
Yeah. So it's a really good point. What feasibility is, what stage of the process we are in. This really is the very, very first stage of thinking, right? There's an idea. We got to know more about what we're working with in order to know whether it's an idea even worth pursuing, right? And then if it looks like it isn't, then you're done. If it looks like it is, then you move on down the road and get more specific about what the exact proposals are. All right, so do we have a plan for how many tables, how many people at a table? Okay. All right, and one or more of us will hang out at tables with you. If you have questions or anything, we'll be there with you.
Hey, Sonny, go ahead and pause it right now, and then we'll
Oh,
come
that's a
back
good
to
idea.
it.
The recording.
Yeah.
Each. Super fast. I'm just kidding. All right, we are at 7:30 because we had some really seemed like great discussions. I won't limit you too much. Just talk as fast as you can, I guess. But we do want to hear what you talked about at your tables and kind of your points that you would like to express. So table 1, table 2, table 3, table 1. You good to go ahead and report out the guy in the hat? Okay. Try to capture your ideas up here too, so. You just have to stand there and hold it for him.
Yeah, there you go.
Just like an interview.
Okay, so a good first things first would be to utilize this spot as mainly parking, flat enough to where and large enough to where like a 6x10 to 6x15 trailer can maneuver. And there is water that likes to accumulate here, at least before the fire, to would get very muddy. On the other side of Jordan Hill Road, there used to be a old mobile home there that would make that is flat enough to where it could be utilized for a simple kids course, an oval with some humps. With having parking up top will definitely help ease up people wanting to park for generations where Skyway meets Koodalink Road, and they will run along what we presume is PID lands to get access to Koodalink Road. So that'd be a good win-win. Another win would be with parking here is to have security cameras or some form of recording to where it would help limit break-ins to vehicles as well as trackability to bad people utilizing Koodalink or Koodalink Road, Jordan Hill Road to gain access over into Concow, as well as the neighboring people that might own property out there. So if anyone dumps an RV, dumps a trailer, dumps trash, whatever, that is the main gateway right here that can record them. I'm sure local PD would even appreciate that. I have heard of a for sure case where said bad guy was able to successfully escape down Jordan Hill Road. Once we get parking there, a good first step would be just up Koodalink. There is a Paradise PRPD land that owns. There's currently an archery range there. I'm not sure how active it is, but from Jordan Hill Road or a trail that runs along Koodalink to gain access to said land would create endless opportunities for mountain biking, potentially hiking, potentially only dirt bike. OHV used for quads and side-by-sides may not be popular enough due to sheer land size. Most of your side-by-siders and ATV riders are going to mainly explore up and down Jordan Hill Road that sure can go on down into Deadwood, potentially crossing over. I'm not sure how many properties there are along Deadwood. Other people are more familiar with that than I. And then from there, you can go on up Concow. On up Concow, that creates endless trails looping around up into the High Lakes, into Philbrook. Oh, never mind. It's gated from SPI. Nope. Then the only thing you can do access from there from Koodalink is into Dixie. From Dixie, that is not gated all the way until you reach Highway 70. But the logistics of more trails, I think we agree would overly complicate the job. So for starters, parking with security will be a good win for locals as well as people parking, as well as prevent people from parking at Skyway and Koodalink and then technically illegally crossing along the PID property to cross over Skyway again to gain access to Jordan Hill Road. And then another thing would be finding some access road to the chunk of land that Paradise owns for recreation. That ultimately would be the best first step and not overly complicate the job. Sure, bathrooms would be nice. Sure, picnics would be nice, but I think that's a realistic first step.
Thank you.
Yep.
That was great.
Did I hit everything?
We don't have a wireless microphone. End of the line here, so. He's gonna.
You have to move to table one now. to
Or they
talk.
they can use a podium. perhaps?
Yeah, or you can come up to the podium. Still collecting their notes. Okay, can you come up to the, okay, great.
Um, our group fundamentally agrees with what the first group said as far as the best use of the property would be as a staging area, as it would ease current parking issues and then the sprawl that occurs. You know, currently, if there's a couple vehicles in there, that's when you start seeing sprawl along Link and all the way up to Skyway. Making that a more developed space would help with that. Features that we came up with would be a restroom, which again, that should help kind of ease some public concerns of sanitation. We also like the idea of a little kind of kids warm up track before going on to further riding. And then another idea we had is a dirt ramp for loading and unloading, because ramp security is always kind of an issue when you're offloading in the woods and have something that may not fit inside your truck. Other than that, we had a couple residents, local residents to Link, in our group. And it's just the overall concerns of dumping on Jordan Hill, drug activity, other just kind of the hostile environment that's developed over the years from dogs and just people. And then again, kind of echo what they are. I don't know if it's a really a growth area to try to expand or become a tourist attraction. The area kind of is what it is because it's limited by gates. You used to be able to go anywhere out of there, and it would make a great launch pad for that without having to go further up to Butte Meadows or other places where people stage. But that's, you know, as much as I've worked with OHVs for 20 years, that's unrealistic to change. And I think does that sum it up, group? Perhaps like an RC feature for kids also in kind of the parking station area, just like a little fun activity. That's it.
So I'm going to recognize our generous donor, Nick Repinich, who's responsible for all of this, but he wants me to speak. So we're going to start with Nick's mantra that good chases away bad. So the idea is that if we can get more law-abiding recreators in the area, it'll sort of discourage some of the unlawful use. And that includes welcoming like e-mountain bikes and even equestrians to the area. We also brought up the idea of having a permanent unloading ramp up there and a restroom. And Nick says there used to be water on the site, so if you could even have a drinking fountain up there for the thirsty mountain bikers, that would be another benefit. Yeah, right. Yes. So we need to have like a porta potty. It would regularly need to be serviced. If the existing septic from the old mobile home is still serviceable, then it can just flush right into the tank. We also discussed that the railroad grade would be a lovely addition, but unfortunately that's not part of the donation. Although some of the maps imply that the old railroad grade is part of the land that we are working with, it's sadly not. That's why there was the discussion about 2-point-something acres. But of course, if we could get assistance from either Union Pacific Railroad or from SPI, then this becomes a much better trailhead for longer adventures. Nick was saying that the way it's been used, because of the limitations, is that people go up there, trailer up there, ride for a couple hours, and then go back home. And I think that because of those limitations, that's probably the way that we should be focused, at least at first, is that this is for, you know, like an afternoon ride rather than that you're going to be out there or even camping overnight. Also talked about the inconsistent road maintenance going down to the river, and a lot of the xenophobic landowners and squatters, especially on the opposite side of the river, and talked about the SPI gates and the, you know, places that you used to be able to get that you can't really get anymore. That it would be nice if you could loop around off of V line and get to Dixie like you used to. And certainly there's certain, like a dirt bike can find its way around, but that because this isn't as good of a trailhead for those longer rides as it used to be, then the real focus should really be like head down Jordan Hill towards Granite Ridge and then come back and try rather than going beyond the scope. Try to limit this to a realistic scope. I think that's everything that I needed to mention. Did I miss anything? All right, Nick, give me the thumbs up. We're good.
It's karaoke night here.
The groups, I think, probably talked about it like we did, just didn't make our notes or presentation, but the fire lookout's also up there, which is kind of a nice scenic place. I think we've all gone up there and hiked to the top of the lookout. So just something to keep mentioned in the notes. Correct.
The wildfire mitigation aspect of this and the bridge that is currently not easily I see eyes rolling. Yeah, the beautiful bridge that can't be driven across very easily. So that is something, again, one of the conversations that we had is in looking at what would be great to have. The other side of that is looking at how we get it. And, it may not be an OHV investment. It may be a CAL FIRE investment, or it may be a State Water Board investment, because you have, resources that are important, like the Feather River, and erosion is an issue. And so, again, when we're having these conversations, taking into account all of the things that play into what could be a motivator or an incentive for taking care of this area, in addition to bringing, responsible OHV to the area too. So, yeah. Yes.
I did just want to address the old railroad grade real quick. I can't remember what year, and unfortunately our documentation burnt with our house, but I want to say between 08 and 2010, somewhere in there, all of the property owners up there were allowed to deed the railroad grade that was adjacent to their property. So like we have that ownership or deeded land from the railroad grade. So that's probably off the table. I'm hoping. Because it was a fight for us to even build our home, for people coming in, tearing down our lines when we would try to build our house. And we had quite the battle when we first got up there. But so that's probably not somewhere we want to go.
Dan, you want to what's up?
You guys are great. So very much appreciate it. I heard some great conversation. I kind of float around the three tables here. Really interesting ideas. And I think this really exceeded our expectations on the quality of comments and the interest. And, there's going to be more to come on this. The team is going to be assembling this information and operating off this stuff you gave tonight. I think is very informative and really helps guide us going forward. I think it will be February-ish. I'll add ish to it, that we'll have a follow-up meeting on findings and kind of presenting back then. So that would be more reporting back to you guys on what we found. And, this is a very early step for anything out there, but, I think there's a lot of good information and information exchange that happened tonight that I think is fantastic. So very much appreciate your guys' time tonight. It's a long haul. I hope it was fun. I heard energetic, enthusiastic conversations at each table, and we very much appreciate you guys' time. Holly, do you want to add anything?
Again, I've lived in the area, so I know some about the area, and we've spent quite a bit of time collecting data and information, but there were definitely some opinions and some thoughts and information that was shared tonight, especially like about the wild dogs, that I don't think that we had heard or considered. And I also appreciate, I know that, there's some sentiment around the frustration that goes along with, the area and everything. But I also heard a lot of interest and excitement, some great ideas. So I think that this has been kind of a emotional journey for us, like, deciding on how this project's going to move forward. But I really enjoyed tonight and hearing from everybody. And I really appreciate all the information that you shared. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.